privilege of working with a team capable of delivering better justice than the official system. Section 2. Surveillance. Surveillance is the foundation of all operations. Both community-based agent visual surveillance and advanced electronic surveillance are used. This section will cover only local agent visual surveillance. Your local lead agent will schedule surveillance watches for each target in that community. Every target will have at least one community-based agent watching them at all times, even while at home and asleep. Each community-based agent surveillance team will be given a cell phone number for reporting target actions and movement to the local control center. Actions to be reported include, but are not limited to, the following. Target turns lights on to start the day. Target uses toilet or shower. Target exits residence. Target drives away. Target arrives at work. Target shops or visits any other establishment or location. Target arrives home. Target eats meal at home or in a restaurant. Target engages in sexual activity. Target turns lights off at the end of the day. Target turns light on in the middle of the night. Target travels out of town. Some of these observations will be performed by the electronic core, but community-based agents should attempt to make and report as many detailed observations of target activity as possible. The reason such detail is necessary is that the punishment phase of active surveillance requires that supervisors customize each punishment action to match the personality of the target, and the need to make each punishment action appear to be life's normal breaks. One important punishment function of surveillance is to sensitize the target. Targets are never told they are under surveillance or being punished. Instead, close, active surveillance and other activities happening far too frequently to be written off as life's normal breaks will eventually cause the target to realize they are under surveillance and punishment.
Battle started.
As a community-based agent, you will be given specific instructions on exactly when, where, and how to carry out punishment actions. As long as you carry out punishment instructions exactly as given, there is no way the target will be believed if they complain, and you will not be exposed to risk of action by law enforcement. How well the punishment actions work depends on how accurate and complete your reports are in many situations. The control center acquires access to properties or apartments immediately next to the target's homes or apartments. Because the electronic core has through-the-wall surveillance and punishment equipment, they will be reporting target activity along with community-based agents. In a typical setup, community-based agents may be posted in a parked car, where the target's home or apartment can be observed overnight, for example. In this setup, the community-based agent in the car may be instructed to call, using walkie-talkie style cell phones, another community-based agent or team waiting or patrolling by car nearby to follow the target. Or, you may be assigned to follow the target yourself. You will receive instructions from your local center as to following the target. Targets in transit may be either covertly or visibly followed. When in doubt, hang back a bit and contact the center for instructions, as targets in transit can present many unanticipated situations. The center will always have the target's position monitored, so if a target gives the community-based agent the slip, it will assign other appropriate community-based agents to pick up the target at the earliest opportunity. Be sure to notify the control center immediately if you lose the target. When applying the visible following of a target, making the target uncomfortable because of your presence, you will be given instructions as to when to break off the following. Another community-based agent or team may pick up the visible following. But once you have broken away, advise that you are clear and ready for the next assignment. Section 3. Intercepts. Intercepts are where community-based agents will appear to just coincidentally cross paths on foot with the target. Once the target has been sensitized to the point of realizing they are under surveillance and punishment, they will recognize and be made appropriately uncomfortable by the simple act of multiple community-based agents just happening to cross paths with them. Your local control center will instruct you as to how you will be cued to perform an intercept. Often, you will have an on-site supervisor position you and give you hand signals as to when to start your movement to intercept the target. Because targets moving about aren't always totally predictable, the success of community-based agent intercepts depends heavily on the electronic corps, who have means of monitoring the exact whereabouts of every target, and, through computer programs, predict exactly when and where a target will be as they move about the community. Your local on-site supervisor has a special means of receiving instant silent instructions from the center. Intercepting community-based agents may be asked to perform one of the following forms of intercept. First, simple path crossing, requiring the target to take evasive action to avoid collision. Multiple community-based agents sometimes perform this several times during a single outing by a target. Second, on foot, walking for an extended period on the opposite side of the street from a walking target. Third, arriving at a place known to be a favorite of the target and simply occupying that place just as the target is about to arrive. Restaurants, parks, public facility seating, even bus seats are examples. Sometimes just hanging out in such a location at times and places where people don't ordinarily do that. Fourth, smoking, coin jingling, whistling or toe tapping near the target at a location where the target is known to need to stand, as to wait for the bus, or standing right behind a target at a water fountain. Fifth, a group, as many as a dozen community-based agents may be assigned to arrive at a store just ahead of a target and form a queue ahead of the target, spending time buying lottery tickets to delay the target. The target is very tired and eager to get home after work, for example, or in a hurry. Sixth, community-based agents may be assigned to leave a next-door home or apartment exactly the same time as the target, repeatedly. Alternatively, a community-based agent may intercept the target a short way before home and arrive at exactly the same time as the target. While these may seem like trivial acts, keep in mind that the target will have these trivial things happen every single day, and repeated intercepts like these will force the target to always watch for such acts, essentially ensuring the target never has a nice day. This is the goal, to ensure the target's punishment. Similar intercept operations are performed with vehicles. The center can schedule these every day the target commutes, and both to and from work. Vehicle intercepts are particularly effective when the target sees the same vehicle in an intercept convoy, both in the morning and in the evening commute. Because vehicle intercepts can be dangerous, community-based agents assigned to vehicle intercept duty must successfully complete a special training course prior to actual assignment. Here are some examples of vehicle intercepts a community-based agent can expect to be assigned. Parking so as to prevent a target's leaving a parking area and then disappearing. Parking commercial vehicles often near the target's home with something unusual about these vehicles, such as there is no need for that trade, or just unmarked white vans to make the target think the van is there to conduct surveillance. Simple following or leading a short distance, but every day. Doing this both during target commutes and then other times makes the target very uncomfortable. Passing a side street stop sign, then stopping an uncomfortable distance into oncoming traffic just as the target is about to arrive at the side street, causing the target to have to slam on the brakes. This requires control center assistance and prompting by walkie-talkie style cell phone. For a community-based agent vehicle convoy, boxing in the target during a commute, forcing the target to travel at a lower speed than the target wants to travel. In some locations, the center will supply special license plates to community-based agent vehicles with short words which have special meaning to the target. For a community-based agent convoy, and where the target is at a location and time where traffic is normally very sparse, cause heavy traffic, forcing the target to notice. The ultimate vehicle intercept is the staged accident. This can be dangerous and is only assigned to very senior agents. However, it is possible to stage an accident so only the target knows it was staged. This is an excellent means of punishment where a target has committed a serious offense specifically against secret services by revealing their criminality to the public. Generally, staged accidents are done in jurisdictions where police strongly support the operations so that the community-based agent driver is protected.
If the surveillance and intercept tactics I just read sound familiar, you need documentation, not feelings, documentation. I wrote an entire field manual on exactly how you can build a case file so people will believe you. The link is in the description.
Section 4, Physical Sabotage. Physical sabotage is an especially effective form of punishment when it is carefully limited to low-value items, below the value where police will take the report seriously. For example, burning a target's house down, or even stealing an expensive appliance would bring official investigators into the picture, so that is not done. Sabotage producing extreme safety hazards is generally not suitable for operations because of the potential for bringing official investigators to an accident scene. So while damaging the brake system of a target's vehicle is not allowed for community-based agents, draining some of the oil, transmission fluid, or radiator antifreeze is allowed, but not all of it. The goal is to make it look as if the target is negligent in maintaining fluid levels, and generally not causing a catastrophic failure that non-targets might see as sabotage. It is very important to apply punishment by way of a large number of small-value sabotage acts, because that makes it look like the target is forgetful, exaggerating, or in some cases even delusional, if they complain about many cases of small-value damage. The target's associates will simply refuse to believe that anyone but the target is responsible. Sabotage is very important in that it lets the target know they are totally helpless to stop it, and cannot even complain about it effectively without appearing mentally ill. The organization is very fortunate in that some people, hearing about sabotage from a target, did the sabotage themselves to get attention. Sabotage is applied at the target's home, workplace, and on their vehicle. This requires the assistance of locksmiths and alarm technicians. Your local control center will supply this help and will bring specialists in from a distance in the case of rural areas. Here are some examples of sabotage a community-based agent may be assigned to carry out: entering a vehicle or home and changing control and radio settings, replacing window washer fluid with water, possibly destroying the system in winter, scratching the paint on the target's vehicle, scratching furniture and valuables, tire sabotage, from removing some air right up to slashing a sidewall if authorized by the center, simulating a break in electric window heater strips, cutting off the four-way flasher button, removing substantial amounts of oil, transmission fluid, or antifreeze, but not enough to cause catastrophic failure, moving things around inside the vehicle to show the target someone got in, unlocking the vehicle and leaving it unlocked, possibly even with door open, small cuts to the car's upholstery, unlocking the target's front or back door and leaving it ajar while the target is away, moving furniture or carpets around fairly frequently to show the target someone was there, stealing low-value items, especially items like scissors, which can be easily misplaced, keeping them until the target replaces the item, then returning the missing item, often in a place the target already checked. Stealing important papers, especially those which will cost money to replace. Stealing irreplaceable photographs. Target is at work, remove mail from their box and toss it around, repeatedly making wall pictures crooked, setting clocks to the wrong time, repeatedly dumping consumable supplies such as coffee to make the target think they are no longer capable of managing their supplies well, starting small rips in new clothing which are widened on repeated visits, ripping crotches out of the target's underwear or stealing their finest underwear, swimsuits, and similar items, replacing
Unit
clothing
lost.
with similar items which are too small for the target. Turning inside button flaps over, making buttoning a shirt or top difficult. Carefully working the tip of a knife through seams in any air mattress or cushion the target may own, including replacements,
Type
on a
2
daily
unit
basis.
spotted.
Breaking zippers in clothes and bags, perhaps by pulling out a tooth or two. Shoving a knife through the soles of waterproof boots. At work, removing screws from the target's office chair or at home, the dinner table, leaving only one screw of 4, causing the table to tilt with china on it. At work, damaging or destroying the target's work from a previous day. For example, the computer is broken again, possibly worse. At work, replacing current copies of computer files with an older copy. This is particularly serious if the target is a computer programmer. At work, where some employees are or can be recruited to be community-based agents, set up mistaken deliveries of heavy
Long-range
goods
plasma
which block
cannon
the target's
spotted.
office. At work, if the target is responsible for parts of the operation which can be sabotaged, do so repeatedly just as the target starts eating lunch or is about to leave for home. At work, where the target is responsible for materials that cannot be locked up, sabotage or with special permission from the control center, steal the material. Thefts have to be carefully considered and authorized by your local center. Unless you have authorization, do not steal. One particularly effective type of theft is to remove small value but often used items from the target's premises. Once the target has been observed purchasing a replacement, the item is returned. This not only causes the target to spend money uselessly, it also imposes a feeling of total helplessness on the target. Section 5. Sabotaging the target's reputation. Sabotaging the target's reputation and all that goes with it, such as ability to earn a living, business, and personal relationships, is a very special operations category. Newer community-based agents will not be assigned to engineer the method, but will assist in passing rumors, which are the main means of destroying a target's public image. Rumors consist mainly of lies. However, in order to secure cooperation of specific members of the community to participate in the punishment phase, additional information keyed to appeal to the patriotic or community service sense of such community members may be used as well. As mentioned earlier, the organization has many top psychologists and psychiatrists on permanent staff at headquarters and some in larger population centers. It is their responsibility to design the campaign to destroy the target's reputation. The following people can be approached and given information which will cause them to make the target's association with them uncomfortable or break off all contact with the target. Business contacts, supervisors, co-workers, casual social contacts, such as clubs a target may be a member of, or a group that frequents a bar where the target is a patron. Friends. Local
Tech
fraternal
2 unit
organizations. They are motivated by the public service and are an excellent source of assistance in keeping the target under surveillance and participating in the punishment phase as well. Store staffs at places the target shops, the target's landlord, the target's neighbors. Tradesmen who are likely to service the target's home, car, or business. Bus drivers on the target's route. Local children. City employees, including emergency medical technicians and ambulances. Homeless shelter staff and residents where applicable. Only members. Surprisingly, many are ready to believe negative information, especially personnel at places the target applies for work. How intensely these sabotage operations are carried out is governed mainly by the need to prevent the target from learning that the negative rumors are being spread. The goal is to keep negative information covertly flowing into the community in such a way that those receiving the information aren't likely to tell the target. One might think that friends and family members would instantly notify the target and side with the target. Fortunately, Experience shows that co-opting friends and family is surprisingly easy once they are informed about the target's criminal record. The headquarters staff have developed techniques which by and large prevent that, but those techniques are beyond the scope of this manual. Suffice it to say that it is possible to apply incentives which cause even people closest to the target to cooperate. These incentives are applied by specialists from our organization at higher than the local level. For the community level community-based agent, the work of sabotaging the reputation of the target takes the form of simply carrying out instructions from your control center as to what you say, to whom, how, and when. Section 6. Discrediting targets. While the powerful silent support of operations by the justice and psychiatric systems has been sufficient to prevent the target from informing the public, the area of discrediting targets is an ongoing activity, like sabotaging the target's reputation, discrediting their public statements, websites, media appearances, letters to the editor and the like, are done under the supervision of psychologists and psychiatrists on their staff. If a community-based agent has a good track record of intelligently carrying out assignments and has access to a computer, the community-based agent may apply to the local control center for assignment to discredit work. Excellent communication skills are required. Some of the activities community-based agents carry out under supervision are as follows. Monitoring message boards, blogs, and open media like independent media for target posts. This is normally done in special shifts and under scheduling and control at a higher level than your local control center.
The whole team is wasting energy.
This monitoring is assisted by blog scanning software which will detect and instantly flag posts relating to activities. The community-based agent doing this work will immediately reply with comments like, "Someone isn't taking their medication," or "The target's name has provided absolutely no evidence." The community-based agent will then report the post to higher-level supervisors for possibly more detailed responses. Monitoring newspapers in your area for letters to the editor regarding activities. Most editors and many reporters have been recruited and are willing to assist in keeping the important work of monitoring and neutralizing quiet. But once in a while, a letter to the editor will slip through. In this case, comments like, "Someone isn't taking their medication" are not an appropriate response. Transcribe and forward such a letter to the editor to the supervisor, along with your proposed response. The supervisor may edit your response and will assist in ensuring your response is printed. Your supervisor will have staff monitoring upcoming talk show appearances by targets. While most talk show hosts, even those somewhat sympathetic to targets, have received discrediting information and often will not host targets, some targets do manage to get on the air. In this case, your supervisor will assign you to call in to the show and instruct you as to appropriate things to say, such as rebutting the target's claims. Pretending to be a target calling and making statements such as, "UFOs are harassing me," or pulling the discussion away from real activities and to something like media mind control. Agents who have excellent persuasive communication skills can be assigned, with careful coaching and preparation from supervisors, to pretend to be a target and get on talk shows known to air targets as the guest. These opportunities are great ways to discredit targets by talking about UFOs. Things like black helicopters following you, foil beanies, satellites parked just above your home, and perhaps events normally considered paranormal, like seeing things that appear and disappear. These discrediting topics must be a total surprise to the host, only mentioned after the show is in progress. Community-based agents can casually describe the odd behavior exhibited by the target as a result of around-the-clock activities to the target's neighbors. The idea is to focus the neighbor's attention to the target's behavior, hinting that maybe the target is mentally ill. This is easy once the target has developed suspicion that everyone is out to get them. It is a special honor for community-based agents to be chosen for target discreditation work.
If you have the documentation that you've been gathering for 30 days by following what's in my manual, and you want to talk to me about seeing whether or not you have a case that you can give to a private investigator, I offer a consultation. The link for the consultation is in the video description.
Section 7. Trade-related punishment. This section will give some examples of ways community-based agents with specific trades or situations in the community can apply deniable punishment to targets.
Tech 3 unit
Underground
ready.
utility crews, where the management has been recruited, schedule messy,
Units
noisy
under attack.
maintenance at the target's home or business if the target runs a business. This can include having the street torn up for extended periods or repeatedly. Funding for unneeded work is available from headquarters. Taxi drivers can delay arriving when called by the target, especially when going to the airport. Bus drivers have leeway, in nasty weather for example, to stop one stop away from an awaiting target and wait there for perhaps 5 minutes, ostensibly to get back on schedule.
Unit lost.
This can also cause a target to miss connections with the next bus or train. This is especially effective when the target, exposed to bad weather, can see the bus waiting up the street for no apparent reason, or not stopping at all at the target's bus stop. Repair tradespeople can keep getting it wrong, necessitating many recalls, be late, be messy, overbill the target, and even damage things which were working fine. This is especially effective in the automobile repair trade. Medical lab technicians can substitute blood samples or otherwise falsify results, making the target appear to have absolutely no reason for their complaints. Police can frequently pull the target over for frivolous reasons. Telephone and cable television technicians can reroute legitimate calls to the target's number in large numbers, and this will cause the target to get very angry with these totally innocent callers. Store staff, where the target shops frequently, can be instructed to remove items the target is known to need when a target is known to be coming. Store management can stop ordering a target's favorite items. Restaurants and food delivery services can tell the target they are out of an item known to be a favorite of the target. The key to successful punishment by tradespeople is that while the target is very likely to know they are being punished, these punishment acts must appear to the general public as life's normal breaks. Section 8. The target's home. Punishing the target at the target's home is essential for effectiveness of Secret Service operations. If the target were punished in the community but was allowed sanctuary in their home, the creation of a prison without walls would not be complete. One of the very first things the control center will arrange is for homes or apartments adjacent to the target's home to be occupied by both community-based agents and members of the electronic operations team. Because operations are carried out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in shifts, homes and apartments which are leased or owned by staff are not used as dwellings. The lease or deed will bear either an entirely false name or the name of a senior staff member whose actual home will be at a different location. Some adjacent homes or apartments are occupied by neighbors of the target who have offered to cooperate in punishment of the target. The initial contact of neighbors to determine their willingness to cooperate is done by senior staff, and incentives to cooperate are often offered. Here are some commonly used punishment activities which are carried out both by community-based
Astreus
agents
ready.
and cooperating neighbors of the target. Activities are rotated among the choices, but at least one of them is applied daily. Noise. Noise must be of a type which the general public deems normal. Remember that the goal is to have the target aware they are being punished, but not be able to convince anyone else that that is the case. Observe local noise curfews, but plenty of punishment can occur outside noise curfew times. The target must not have easy cause to involve law enforcement. Examples include the following: start a leaf blower, timed precisely when the target attempts to enjoy their yard,
Friendly
or when
commander
electronic
destroyed.
core operators cue the community-based agent that the target is trying to nap. Loud music from a neighboring home. This is an excellent action, as it is common. Time it so every time the target opens a window, the music starts. The timing makes the point. It is intentional punishment. Electronic core operators can apply music in adjacent apartments with exceptionally powerful bass directed at the target's unit. Frequent squealing of tires near the target's home. In apartments, frequent drilling into a scrap of wood or masonry held against the target's wall, floors, or ceiling as if working. Alternatively, hammering, especially effective when cued by electronic core operators that the target is attempting to nap. Tossing golf or tennis balls against the target's home when the target is known to be trying to fall asleep. Ideal for cooperating neighbor children. Frequent use of sirens near the target's home. Many emergency services employees have a strong sense of community service and willingness to cooperate in this, or by people posing as Jehovah's Witnesses. Knocking on the
Nuclear
door
missile
for
silo
frivolous,
spotted.
nonsensical, or wrong address
Tech 3
reasons.
unit spotted.
Especially effective when the target is in bed or having a meal. Trash. Leave trash in the target's yard frequently, but control center staff will assist in scheduling this so that the target cannot quite have a case on which law enforcement will act. Terrifying the target's pet. This requires entry while the target is away from home for an extended period and must be scheduled by the control center. Electronic core operators can render a dog or cat passive for safe entry of the community-based agents by electromagnetic beam. Wounding or killing the target's pet, rarely used. Scheduled when the target has acted in a way so as to deserve special punishment, like divulging the name of a criminally acting secret agent. Killing domestic animals or wildlife
Nuclear missile
and
launch
leaving them on the
detected.
target's doorstep. Scheduled when the target has acted in a way so as to deserve special punishment. Where the target owns substantial land, noxious activities can be arranged and built next to the property. In one case, a dump, an auto race track, and a prison were built adjacent to a target who owned a large farm in an area of natural beauty. While this is rare, it does illustrate commitment to delivering punishment to those deemed deserving of it. Cooperating police departments can visibly watch the target's home, possibly being parked in front of the home when the target returns, repeatedly.
Make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit that bell notification so you can be notified when I upload more gang stalking investigation information.
Once I started experiencing that in the same environment repeatedly, every time I was at a gate, every time I was on a flight.
So hey, today folks, we've got Horse Ankles, who is a targeted individual who's going to share his stories and things like that, what's going on. So how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, man?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. So, you know, as a private investigator, I get a lot of people calling me and reaching out about situations on you know, different things that they want to look into. And at first, I just thought it was mental health. You know what I'm saying? And then I started, but it kept happening, and I was like, let me research this a little bit more to see if in fact some of it's true, some of it may not be true. And so, and it's got me leaning towards the majority of it is not mental health. It's actual things that are going on. And so that's kind of the way that I've got started. And so what I wanted to do is interview, you know, some people like yourself, just so they can, you know, give their side of the story and tell me, you know, what is happening with them, you know, the situation surrounding them, to help them out. Okay.
That sounds great, man. And Lance, I not only want to just thank you for your time, but also for kind of spreading the word, spreading awareness about this issue, because I think it's one of the most important steps that we can take as a community and to rectify this issue is just to educate the public. When I first started looking into it as well, it really struck me, like, how can so many people reporting the same thing, like there's no way this could be like mass psychosis. So
Right.
I think it's very important to kind of dispel that component first. So I thank you for helping with that.
Okay, great. And I just want to mention everybody, Horse Ankle's link, because he has a YouTube channel as well, will be posted in the video description. So if anybody wants to subscribe and follow him, his information will be down there as well. And then I also have some resources on my website for gang stalking. So it's different techniques and strategies and video series and consultations if somebody wants to talk to somebody. So that's in there as well. So let's get into the questions. What was the first moment you remember thinking something isn't right here before you had any framework like gang stalking or targeting individuals? Can we kind of give me a look what happened? What triggered it? What did you do?
Yeah, so I in this early stage where I didn't know what I knew today, and I was still trying to figure things out. I was second guessing myself a lot.
Okay.
And I think for me, the best way to summarize it would just be pattern recognition and just kind of like repeated themes in encounters that I would have. And I'm sure it's different for everyone else out there, but
Welcome,
for
Commander.
me, a lot of it started in commercial airports and
Okay.
commercial flights. So whenever I would be seated, like specifically at my gate for that flight, and subsequently
Please
when I would
choose
be
your
on the
starting
plane
location.
in my seat, like I would always encounter these people that I didn't knew
Okay.
that and they were different every time. I think there was one exception one time, but these strangers, these people that I didn't know, if there were two or more of them, they would be having a conversation amongst themselves within earshot of me. So they would be seated or standing within hearing range of myself.
Okay.
And this conversation that they would be having amongst themselves would be referencing things that were pertinent to me. And what do I mean by that? I mean places I recently went, activities I recently did. They had even mentioned like certain friends that I was talking to and like what I had said to them. So like I want to say like the first time or two, I just kind of waved that off, and I was like, okay, like that's weird. Like that's probably just a coincidence or something. But
Okay.
once I started experiencing that in the same environment repeatedly, every time I was at a gate, every time I was on a flight, because that's how it started for me, was with the gang stalking, and
Battle
that's
started.
specifically where it started for me. So I want to say maybe by the third or fourth time, that's when I kind of knew that something was up. And
Warning,
I'll also
lava
note
level
too that
rising.
each encounter that I had, those conversations that those strangers were having, and I'll also note too that if it was one person on their own, they would be kind of like supplementing that conversation tactic for pretending to be on the cell phone, effectively doing the same thing. But each time I encountered them, so times number 3 onwards, what they were saying was increasingly pertinent to me. Mentioning like very private details, like things that no way a stranger would know about me. And that's kind of when I knew that like this is highly coordinated, this is highly organized, However, at that point, I just still didn't know who it was. So
Okay. Now, what type of job did you have during this time? Or were you like a popular person, a celebrity, worked in the government? What was your job at the time what was going on with that?
Well, Lance, I'm just a normal dude.
Okay.
I'm a completely average guy. Knowing what I know now, I'm very much aware of how I became a targeted individual. I know specifically the person that kind of initiated that involuntary entry into being a targeted individual. But
Enemy units
to
spotted.
answer your question, just normal jobs. I was a college student.
Enemy commander destroyed.
I worked in retail stores. I worked for 2 different airlines at Logan Airport in Boston.
Aircraft
What else?
detected.
And then I later went on to enlist in the Army, and I served for just over
Lava level dropping.
4 years, and I experienced it there as well. So it followed me everywhere, regardless of what I was doing, which was very strange.
Now, you were saying that you knew what started this whole thing. Tell me about that. What happened? What was the trigger? Did you do something to the person? I mean, what happened to get them to do it? And what was what caused all that you think of?
Sure. So I will say that I need to be especially careful with this one, but as what I've shared in my story on my channel, just for your viewers out there. So my entry into the targeted individual program, me becoming a targeted individual, it was initiated by a woman I met in college. She was a mutual friend, and embarrassingly, it took me a super long time to figure this out, but I just fell into a honeypot trap. And I know that that this individual was the point of origin because she was directly involved in that honeypot campaign. And one of the giveaways one of the giveaways for me was that on her social media, public facing social media, Instagram account, she would make posts, she would post Instagram pictures of certain things with certain captions, and they were referencing things that I had never told her, that were being spoken about by the gang stalkers. Just things that were very private, that there was just no way that she could know, by asking someone else or anything like that. So that was the point of origin for me. And I will say that later on in my journey, and this happened, I want to say this happened at least a year before that TDY that I've talked about in March 2024. But the one time where I saw the same gang stalker more than once, the one and only time, this one individual, and again, every time I would see him, it would be at an airport gate, and later, on that same flight. But he would make reference to her, and her specifically, and he encouraged me to reach out to her and to make amends. So this woman that I met she just served as the emotional anchor for almost the entirety of my time as a
Enemy
target
commander
individual.
destroyed.
So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. I fell into a honeypot.
Aircraft detected.
That's how it happened to me.
Okay. And so, since then, what are some of the things that they have done? What are some of the tactics that they've
Units
used
under
against you
attack.
besides the people at the airport and her making the Facebook post? What are some other things that are being done against you?
Oh man, there is a laundry list, and
Okay.
and I will say that it was actually through your video of finding the gang stalking manual.
Okay.
You know, I was equally excited that something like that had been found and
Okay.
was being talked about online. But you know, it also gave me a lot of like, as I read through it, it gave me a lot of just uneasy feelings, because I'm literally going down line by line, and I'm just telling myself, like, this has happened to me.
Okay.
And I think that's just, you know, that serves as a very strong indicator that, like, this is indeed an organized program. This is not random, and this is not some sort of paranoid delusion or anything like that. So, but I mean, just to name a few, nearly every place of work that I've had
Unit lost.
in the past 15 to 16 years, excuse me, I've experienced workplace harassment. And so what did that look like over time? At first, it would be like an occasional customer
Warning. Lava level rising.
who would be the gang stalker and just say something very, very pertinent, and equally as much because it is of my opinion that part of the reason why I was put into this program was specifically for the behavioral modification aspect. So,
Okay.
so I wasn't necessarily being, you know, like, insulted every single time. I wasn't being intimidated every single time. You know, this is all a game of carrot and stick. So in those early days of the workplace harassment, they would kind of like, I can only describe the behavior as trying to act like a mentor or a role model or a parent, like
Okay.
trying to steer me in a certain direction in my life, and that direction was to gain some sort of government experience in something, and then later apply to CIA, which I did. And I won't attribute all of that to my gang stalkers. I'm not going to give them that credit, because those are things that I wanted to do anyway. But
Okay.
they were kind of like massaging me and like pushing me along that path. And I think that that kind of tone in their messaging, it existed in every kind of gang stalking encounter that I had. But over time, it became increasingly more stick than carrot. And from what I understand now, we know what gang stalking does to people. We know how gang stalkers
Lava
want
level
to
dropping.
make people feel. But I recently started thinking about gang stalking and
Your team reached
target
Tech 2.
individuals. I started recently looking at that through the lens of MK Ultra, which is a well-documented and exposed CIA program that went on for about 20 years before being found out by the church committee in the 70s. But I promise this does answer your question in a way.
Okay.
But you know, like in those days of MK Ultra, all of those involuntary, unwitting human experiments for a multitude of reasons, but I think the common denominator being behavioral modification, which the scary word is like mind control, but they're really trying to change that human being through conditioning.
Okay. Right.
Battle paused.
It's my understanding that during that program,
Friendly player
that was
lagging behind.
controlled environments. And after MK Ultra was found out, and like now that there's historical record and people know what it is, you know, if we're being honest with ourselves, like even though the CIA was caught, they're never going to stop programs like that. So I think that the TI program is just a continuation of it, but when they're applying lessons learned from MK Ultra and how it was found out,
Friendly player
the way
caught
that
up.
they are, one way that they're enabling this program
Unit lost.
with the subjects, with the targeted individuals, is they need to create a prison without walls. You no longer have that static, controlled physical environment where you can perform, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to perform on that person.
Right.
So
Friendly commander
looking at it
destroyed.
through that lens, the organized gang stalking, you know, I think it's important that we at least entertain that the gang stalkers are serving as that traveling controlled environment. And of course, like their tactics and their goals like mirror that of Zerzet song, that East German Stasi tactic, and of COINTELPRO. I think although it closely resembles those things and it effectively is able to achieve those same things, I think it's very important that we at least entertain the idea of the gang stalkers being a traveling, controlled environment. When a targeted individual is constantly surrounded, constantly under overt surveillance, I mean, you've talked about it at length, but like that has a lot of psychological effects as intended on that person. And that is how the gang stalkers are a crucial component of this program, because they are more or less serving as that traveling, controlled, and curated environment, the prison without walls. Sorry, did I go off on a tangent there?
No, that's fine. That's fine. We're just sitting, we're gonna treat it like a couple buddies just talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So here's my question: is these things have happened to you? Have you ever tried to report it? And who did you report it to? And then what did they
Friendly
say
commander
to you? What did they do?
self-destructed.
Yeah, of course. So I think looking at my long timeline as a targeted individual, in the very beginning, I was second guessing myself. I was telling myself, like, oh, that's just weird. Like that's a coincidence. The world works in mysterious ways. And then I started seeing patterns and repeated behavior. And even though they were not the same individuals doing it, it was almost like they were following a script or just some kind of mission set. So to answer your question, before I reported it to anyone,
Tech 2 unit
I-
detected.
honestly, like, I went as long as I
Unit
could
received.
without reporting it, so I could kind of gather my own information, really just to make sure that, number one, like, what I was experiencing was real and not
Okay.
imaginary. It was not a paranoid delusion.
Right.
And I, being in that like mysterious stage, I was still trying to find attribution for like who on earth would actually like want to do this to me and
Right.
why.
Right.
And because I'm just like a totally normal dude, like pretty much every targeted individual out there, right? We're all innocent people in this program. But to answer your question, the first time that I reported it was on a training exercise. I had traveled to the Fort Bragg area in North Carolina
Okay.
with my NCOIC, and
Warning. Lava level
there
rising.
I experienced a gang stalking episode on that flight that was just, it was too big to ignore. There were, I want to say there were 5 or
Aircraft
6 of them. They were all seated in front of me on that flight on the way there, and
Enemy
it was just
commander
relentless
destroyed.
harassment and intimidation for the entirety of that flight. So when I got off the flight, I had talked to my supervisor, my NCOIC, about it, and when I was in the Army, I was an intelligence analyst, so we decided just to follow our training, follow the book, and I first reported it to Army counterintelligence. I had reached out to a warrant officer at my unit, who then redirected me to the military police and counterintelligence personnel out of Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, I believe it is. So I reached out to them, and then they had recommended that I talk to the FBI.
Enemy commander
So,
destroyed.
third time's the charm. I go to the FBI the very next day. They have a field office in the area. I go there early in the morning, and I'm brought into a secure room, and I'm interviewed by 2 female FBI agents, and I just lay everything out.
Okay.
I tell them everything, not just about that one incident, but of the gang stalking incidents before that. And I also told them why I was hesitant to report it earlier, because it was just so strange.
Right.
But because this happened on like an official Army training trip, and there were just a ton of them being, like, using overt would be a generous term.
Now, is this a civilian plane or a military plane?
Civilian plane. This is a commercial
Okay.
flight.
Okay.
So I laid all out to them, and I even go to the length of including who I now understand to be the point of origin, that
Right.
woman who had honeypotted me. I mentioned her as well, and so they were just taking a lot of notes, and then on my way out, leaving, one of the female FBI agents looked at me, and kind of like with a smile in her eye, she was like, "Have you ever applied to an intelligence agency before?" And I just said, "Yes, I have."
Okay.
And she didn't verbally respond to that. She just kind of like smirked, and then that
Lava
was that.
level dropping.
So,
Okay.
it is my opinion that the FBI they are aware of this program. I personally don't think that the FBI is is directly involved. I think that this is strictly a CIA program, but the FBI, being their sister agency and defending national security and state secrets at home, I think they are aware of this program, and at best they just assist in keeping it a secret. Because I kind of got like a wink and a nod there, which is hard to describe on camera, but that was the first time that I reported it, was to the FBI. And I was told that someone would be in touch with me, and there was one follow-up, I want to say it was the next week, and the follow-up was more or less, it was just confirming that I had made a report, that I had come forward and said something. It didn't include any information. And when I returned to my duty station, I contacted the FBI office that I was close to, and the first time I called, they were just like, let me look this up. Okay, it looks
You
like
are
yes,
overflowing
you've
metal.
made this report, but it just got increasingly dismissive, and then I just had no contact after that whatsoever. So that's when I this kind of aided in at least reinforcing to me that, this thing is a big secret, and I don't think I'm going to get any more information. So that was my first time reporting, was right to the FBI.
Okay. Because I know as a police officer, because I was a police officer for over 10 years, and if somebody was to come with me with what you said, back then I had a different mentality. I'd been like, yeah, okay, that's nice, have a good day. Because I know in law enforcement, you deal with specific crimes. So if somebody's just coming with a feeling, or things like that, they don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're just like, okay, well, did they break into your house? Did they steal your car? They want specific incidents that they can investigate. And, and so let's just say that somebody was tinkering with your car. Well, did they vandalize it? By taking the fluids out, scratching it, deflating the tires? Or do you just have a feeling something happened?
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I was in the Army working as an intel analyst, I just think of, in that industry, the term actionable intelligence, this, this is information being reported and I'm documenting it, but can we do anything about it?
Right.
So I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on now. What are you doing nowadays to deal with it? Are you just accepting it, because you know it's happening, and you just, live your life as best you can? I mean, what are you doing today?
Oh man, so I think that, and I'll just come out and say it, but as a targeted individual, it is very important that that you have that mental and intestinal fortitude every single day, because just the nature of being a TI, and if you're a TI like me, who deals with heavy gang stalking and the technological component, the technology that they use as well. If you aren't taking care of yourself, and if you don't have the right mentality, it can really bring you down. So I have good days and I have bad days, but one thing that gives me a lot of hope is is that I think that there's not only like increasing awareness of gang stalking, of just recognition of the term targeted individual. Those things are on the rise. And
Tech 3
I
unit
think for
ready.
me, the other thing that
Your team reached Tech
gives
3.
me, I think, even more hope, if I'm being honest, is looking at MK Ultra as a historical precedent. That program was exposed after 20 years.
Okay.
And, it is my opinion that the targeted individual program, as we know and understand it today, although programs like this are always continuous, but I am of the opinion that the targeted individual program, as we know and understand it today, really took off in its current form right after September 11th, 2001. So if we use the early 2000s and things like the Patriot Act, the establishment of the Department of Homeland Security, and the creation of the state-run fusion centers, if we use that as an example, we're right around that mark now. We're 20-something years. So I just think that in our lifetime, that this will be exposed, and hopefully targeted individuals are vindicated, because we aren't crazy. There isn't mass psychosis in the United States. This is a government-run program, and it's happened before, and it's just happening again with different technology and with different tactics. It's just important to take care of yourself, to remind yourself that you are not alone. Being a targeted individual, I kind of more or less really found out that I was one after looking online, and just being like, wow, like here I was thinking I was this like super special secret person going through this cheap spy movie, but it's happening to thousands of people. There are thousands of people dealing with this, so finding a sense of community is important. And I'm a service-oriented person. I believe in service to your community and to your country. So I think like in its current form and stage where my head is kind of at, I feel like that if I don't do my part in at least talking about this, then I'm doing everyone a disservice, because they win and this will go on longer
Air transport spotted.
People just stay silent about it. So I do get a sense of purpose and some gratification in trying to educate others, just by sharing my story and letting people know out there that they are not alone. And there are a lot of people out there that are helping targeted individuals, and you are one of them. So I just want to thank you directly for that.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem. So everybody, this is Horse Ankles. His link is in the video description. Make sure you follow him. And then also, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on the next one.
If I'm being honest here, I had no idea what the terminology gang stalking was.
Hello, everybody. This is Lance the PI, and I've got Nomadic Shaman LLC, who, based on what I'm seeing, has been a victim of gang stalking. So how you doing today? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've kind of experienced.
Okay. Hi, my name is Christina. Ooh, it's too late for that. So my name is Christina, but I go by Nomadic Shaman LLC, which is on my YouTube page. A little bit about myself. I never really know where to go with this question, right? Because it can run the gamut. But in short, currently I'm in Florida. I do work in marketing, and then I have my business, Nomadic Shaman LLC, which is a spiritual-based business, which focuses on holistic health. And it's interesting how this all ties in together, because this is all connected to my game stalking experience. This is what evolved, if you've heard, turning your pain into profit or pain into purpose. That is how Nomadic Shaman
Lava
LLC
level
is created.
rising.
So,
How long have you been being gang stalked? Like, when did you first notice it? How long ago? You don't got to tell the whole story, just like how long ago did it happen?
Well, it started in spring of 2020. So specifically around March of 2020.
Enemy commander destroyed.
Now, if I'm being honest here, I had no idea what the terminology gang stalking was. I just know what I was observing, what I was witnessing, which led me to look up online, more specifically YouTube, and just doing some research of my own just to see what is this being called, if it is even a thing. And that's how I came to understand what gang stalking is. Gang stalking and also mobbing. So that's how I discovered what gang stalking was. And I was able to connect the dots, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm being gang stalked. However, I understood that, not initially, because I'll say this, initially when I described being gang stalked, people are like, well, what are you talking about? What is that, you know? And then they like to say, okay, well, maybe you should visit the clinic. No judgment, but maybe,
Right.
maybe you need to take some medication, you know? And don't tell everybody and anybody that you're being gang stalked, because they're gonna be looking at you, you know, kind of funny.
Right.
And, you know, I've gotten that. I've gotten, you must be experiencing some type of spiritual psychosis. I've gotten delusional. You know, I've gotten just a variety of things when I first came public with what I was experiencing. And I will admit, initially, out of shame and guilt, I wasn't even vocalizing what I was experiencing. I kept this under wrap for a number of years. I initially started experiencing gang stalking in, again, March of 2020, but I didn't come out and share what was happening to me until 2023, okay? And that mainly was because shame, guilt, trying to figure out what was happening. If it was making sure that it wasn't in my mind, so to speak, of the things that I was experiencing, because I felt like I needed
Lava level
tangible
dropping.
proof in order to be taken seriously. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, there you have it.
Yeah, because I know as a private investigator, you know, I get a lot of people calling me that have, you know, issues, and I just thought that they're, you know, in their mind at first, because I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What's the point? You know, and so I didn't even take the cases. But I got so many of them, I was like, let me do some research to see what this is, and then how can I help them? Because, you know, as from private investigator to be a police officer, my thing is show me proof. You know what I'm saying? Show me proof. What do you mean? Okay, you're saying you're being followed. Do you have a log? Do you have, you know, any kind of documentation? Do you have photographs? Or is this just a feeling? You know, because some of it is mental. I mean, some people have mental issues. And I thought that's what it was at first until I started doing some research. And I got, you know, on my website, there's a link in the description, I've got, you know, some resources for people that are being gang stalked. You know, some manuals and some free stuff, to share some checklists so they can learn how to document the evidence. So, like on your case, what's happening to you back then when you first started, and has it progressed into something else? Are you being followed? Are you being listened to? Are they sending rays through your head to make, you know, to have you think of something? I mean, what's going on?
Yes. I mean, initially, I noticed that there were, when I lived in Philadelphia at the time, this was back in 2020 in March. So initially, I was given that, okay, I lived in that area for about 15 years before I decided to move to Virginia. And so with living in an area for that long, you know the people, you know the habits. And I'll be completely honest, with me being a Black woman, a single woman in an urban neighborhood, for survival, my head stays on a swivel, okay? So I'm able,
Units
I touch
under
certain
attack.
things that other people may not have liberty. I don't
Unit
want to say
lost.
liberty, but I'm saying, when I say that, living in a more privileged area or having that support system where they don't need to have their head on a swivel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So for me, I would always, check the temperature and look out the blinds. That's how I
Enemy
check the
commander
temperature.
destroyed.
I look at the Weather Channel. I pop over the blinds and see what
Yeah,
people are
just eat
wearing.
like it's gonna rain.
Yes.
Do I gotta put an extra coat on? Yeah, I get it.
Yes, I look at what my people are wearing, okay? And I'll just leave that there. So then,
Long-range plasma
as
cannon
I'm doing
detected.
that, I noticed that there were just different things that were happening, cars that wasn't recognizing. And it's kind of like the law of the land where I've lived. People respected directly in front of you if you were parked there. It was mainly to visit or patron certain businesses.
Right.
So I knew that when there were cars that were parked there at certain times and they were still there, that was a mental trap, okay? When I started to see cars repeatedly, and it was different cars coming in and out that would just park there and just stay in their vehicle, I'm like, why are these people staying in their vehicle, for long amounts of time? So it became that, and then also became following me to different stores. Sometimes, in addition to the vehicles, it came also with individuals following me in and out of stores, multiple groups. And then also here comes the scam phone calls. People are calling me a whole bunch of different numbers, and they're not necessarily telemarketing, but one of the things that kind of had me a bit suspicious was when I received, this is in addition to being followed, okay? There was this one instance where I parked my vehicle. The next day, I noticed it's keyed up, okay? So in addition to that, I'm receiving phone calls. Some of the phone calls would be random and would ask me, oh, are you selling your building? At the time, my landlord was selling the building, okay? But the individual had called my cell phone number. So then I reached out to my landlord and I had asked him, are you giving out my phone number? To which he said no. So then after that, he said, why would I give your phone number out? I'm the individual that's selling the building. Exactly. So in midst of everything else that's going on, and I'm repeatedly getting phone calls from different people asking me if I'm selling the building, I said, okay, this is a mental note. Let me check on this. Also, later on during the year, or not later on, this happened like around April of 2020. I get a call from my landlord, and he tells me that he received information from the tenant who lives on the first floor. There was somebody who came banging on the door, causing a lot of ruckus and riot. And so my landlord had called me to see whether or not I knew who this individual was. The individual, or the person who lived on the first floor, owns a business. She has a hair braiding business. She came into, there was almost a physical altercation because of her banging the door. The reason why I'm sharing this story is because this woman knew where I lived, but wasn't sure which apartment building that I was in, and ended up getting into a confrontation with the woman downstairs. She took out her camera. Then as soon as she took out her camera and started recording, this woman jumped in her car and ran away. Now, I've never heard of anybody experiencing that length of gang stalking, but that's just an example of, of something that I've experienced. So then I figured, okay, this is connected somehow, but I'm not really sure how it's connected. And so I eventually found out that the individual who is responsible for advocating for me to be gang stalked, whichever list okay, that I was put on, because I really feel that I was put on a list. Whichever list I was put on, it was connected to someone I was seeing at the time, and it was their ex-girlfriend. So this is how I started. This is how it started, okay? So let's fast forward into, I'll say February of 2021. So mind you, at this point, I'm thinking, oh, it's an isolated event in the sense where, oh, it's this woman who feels a certain type of way about me, and she got all her friends to try to scare me, you know? And I'm like, oh, I can handle that. I've handled worse. Okay. So I'm thinking, oh, this is like a secluded, isolated incident. At the time, let's say February of 2021, I moved to Virginia. When I moved to Virginia, this is when things started to get worse. I noticed a lot of cars. More cars started following me. I've also noticed that I was getting constant headaches. There would be times in the morning and at the nighttime, the vibration from the apartment below me would start to shake and would force like my bed to shake. I don't know what the hell that they were doing, but I knew that the windows were extremely thin. The floors were extremely thin. And so they essentially, any type of technology or machine that was running, not only could I feel it, I could hear it. So there were times where, and it happened only at the apartment below me. And at first I'm like, well, what the hell is going on? Eventually I started experiencing migraines. I started experiencing headaches. I started experiencing pain. It almost felt like a laser was going through my temple. This is how I felt. And then I started feeling dizziness. My equilibrium was off. And I document everything. Okay, I am detailed to the T. That could have been an issue, a problem for me way back when, but in this instance, and for my case, I know it will help me as far as how extremely detailed I am on days, times, events, and people. Okay, so, and I would notate that when it was, and that's how I came to an understanding that, oh, this machine that's going on happens the same time every night around this time. And I'm feeling the vibration come from this specific apartment, which happens to be below my apartment. There were instances where the neighbor, if you look outside in the back, I lived on the 3rd floor. So as it relates to, let's say, energy weapons, because I feel strongly that I was experiencing that, there would be times that it would be so bad, the headaches, the dizziness, my equilibrium being off, I literally would have to sleep on the floor sometimes because the pain became too great. And other times I remember researching, well, what's going to assist me if this is an energy weapon? And you know those, what do you call it, right? The ones that you put on the visor of your car. Oh my gosh, the material that it's made of, because I had researched that Faraday material? Probably. That
for like EMTs?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So
okay.
I was doing my research. I was on Quora, I was on Reddit. I was looking up different things on how to combat this or just at least ease the symptoms. And so there would be times where I would literally sleep day in and day out, like wrapped in this thing, you know, just to gain some type of peace or just like reprieve, you know what I'm saying? To alleviate it. And so there were times, not only that, but there were times where when I would do that, they would get the neighbor directly across from me. So I stopped hearing the machines downstairs when I started doing that. And then I would hear the machine right directly across from me on the 3rd floor. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So in addition to that, then they got the neighbor involved. When I say the neighbor, going back to my original point, when I lived on the 3rd floor and I would look outside, it's completely, there were no street, it was just woods. However, there was only one neighbor that was positioned to the left of me. And for those that do not know, I am a medium. So they didn't count on that. I'm a medium, and so a lot of my information came from other individuals who had transitioned from the gang stalking. Okay, so other individuals who had transitioned, and they shared me some of the experiences that they were sharing with me, some of the experiences, and so in that, some of the information that I received, were names. They didn't count on that either. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this helped me significantly. And when I say names, I'm talking about first names, middle names, last names, down to charges that these people had, so that I can go to the police and say, look this person up. This person's
enemy
name
units spotted.
Is their alias. This person's name is their first, middle, and last. They are part of the gang stalking organization. You don't believe me? Here's their government name. Look it up. Okay. So that also helped me in that case. But there were times where
aircraft detected.
What is it? The neighbor behind me, he was in the military. I think he was a veteran. He was a veteran. And there were times where I would also feel pain, like early morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, and I would just lift up the blinds, and I would see a chair directly across from my bedroom. Okay, if that makes sense. I'm trying to paint you a picture here. So I would see a chair there, and I'm thinking, okay, is this connected? How is this connected? And is this guy also assisting, with the gang stalking as far as the direct energy weapons? I'd also experienced black. It looked like black.
The whole team is wasting energy
around my outlets, on my walls. I would also, what else did I experience? There's just so much. In addition to that, I also found out that my identity was stolen, and I found that out by doing a personal background check. And I happened to get that idea because there were in the forums, one of the ideas that I was given from reading that is, hey, these folks who also gang stalk you, do a background check, because you may be surprised on the information that you pull up, because a lot of it, there's like a lot of fraudulent things that are happening or connected to these people. Okay. Trying to, I don't know why, but this is the information that I obtained within the forum. And so I did a personal background check on me, and I'll have you know, there were all these cases that pulled up that I had no idea about, that showed bankruptcy, that showed, these cases that I wasn't in, or that I've never been in. And there were like credit card companies, different banks that had went to, default or something of that nature. Between the years of 2020 and some as current as 2026. And I didn't receive any type of notification about this. These lawyers, I had no idea about. These cases that I had no idea about, because these companies had pushed it to the courts because I didn't show up in order to make an agreement to make payments on these accounts that defaulted.
Unit lost.
And I had no idea I would not have any idea that these things had existed unless I did a personal background check on myself.
Okay.
So that was good advice. I have consistently, I thought I turned my phone off. Sorry about that. I had consistently changed my passwords, my emails, and that, at first I thought I was doing something, and then come to find out, I'm like, wow, these people are very well connected. Now, mind you, when I said I'm going from thinking, it's just this woman who feels a certain type of way with her friends, And then I'm discovering that my Wi-Fi or internet would cut off specific times of the night consistently. And then I'm getting notices on my phone because it's connected to my phone.
Enemy commander destroyed.
Somebody has logged into these accounts. Was it you? You know, whenever you get notices as far as that?
Yeah.
So, and it just so happens every single time my Wi-Fi would be cut off and then turned back on, this would be happening. They broke into, They broke into my laptop, and I was able to discover that because anytime that I entered or accessed my computer, it said that it was tampered with. So it was like a fail-safe security measure, right? And there was a period where I was never getting that message, and all of a sudden I'm getting that message. So I said, okay, well, let me smarten up and get mobile cameras up in here. And when I say my apartment was like Fort Knox, it was like Fort Knox as far as like the amount of cameras that I had. And so what I had discovered, what I would later find out and discover, was that the business or the apartment complex that I was living at the time, they were paying the property managers, they were paying maintenance to access my home, because there would be times where things were missing, and I'm OCD. So I'm the type of person where if anybody comes in and touches my things, I notice when it's out of place. So there were times where things were missing. There were times where things were rearranged.
Your team reached Tech 2.
They had little kids coming up and knocking on my door. They had, there was one incident where they had a neighbor or somebody from the street throw feces at my door. There were times where my mail had gone missing. I wasn't getting any mail. I wasn't getting any packages. When I had my mobile cameras installed, because I traveled for work, at least I do 3 major travels for my job, my 9 to 5. And I would be gone maybe like a week. Okay. And then within that week, I would get notices on my mobile device that there was like movement. Okay. And so I'm looking closely and I'm seeing that something seems off, but I can't put my finger on it. And I'm thinking to myself, is somebody playing with the footage? And at first I thought it was me, the first instances, but I'm like, then I noticed that every single time I was off on a trip, that this was always happening only when I was gone and not while I was there. Okay. And so what ended up happening is there was a point where I had maybe 4 or 5 photos or 5 videos where I could detect, let me say this. They had hackers. This is my opinion, okay? That they had hackers come in and hack the footage so that they can, when they come in, they do what they do. They pay people to hack it. So from the outside looking in, you can't tell. However, my background as a graphic and web design, these are some things I can pick up on and footage has been messed with. Okay. So because it's in the nature of the work that I did, right? So I was able to pick up that, hey, this footage has been compromised. But initially I said, I don't know, maybe I'm bugging, right? And then I waited, continued to wait, and I noticed that this was like happenstance. Well, there were 3 to 4 incidences where the camera itself,
Units under attack.
Difference where the video footage had been corrupted or played with and messed with, which I could tell. But guess what? The audio didn't match. So I could hear people in the, because I had hardwooded floors. So I could hear people moving and shifting in my apartment, but the audio didn't match. So I guess whoever hacked, they needed to get their refund from whoever hacked, because obviously they didn't do a good enough job. Because
was your camera system set up, hooked up to your Wi-Fi?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Keep going.
Was. Yeah. And so I had that footage, And because I was just like, when I say I have so much information, it's not even funny. I have so much information. But they ended up hacking my phone, and then or hacking, what is it, the app that's on, and then they ended up blacking out the footage. I don't know how to get it back. I'm pretty sure there's a way that I can get it back, if anything, to show that the audio does not match what is on the video, and that you can legit hear people moving in my apartment, around my apartment. I also came to discover 5 cameras, 5 cameras that the maintenance man had put in. How I was able to connect the dots on that, 2 instances. One time there was a maintenance man, I put in an order. One time there was a maintenance man that came in my bathroom to fix something, a plumbing issue, whatever, in my bathroom. And then all of a sudden I see a screw that's loose. I'm like, what the hell is this? So I didn't put 2 and 2 together at that point. So then I ended up calling in for an order to have somebody put in the screw. This told me, oh, let me go on Amazon to find one of those readers, whether or not that's a camera or not. This is what led me to the next camera that I discovered. There was another maintenance man at this particular location who came in and brought in a new fridge. They changed out the screw on the fridge and put the screw that looked similar to the screw that was missing in my bathroom. Now that's nothing out of the ordinary, but I'm thinking to myself, why would he change the screw? I didn't request it. There was nothing wrong with it. There was the screw looked like it was thrown. The old screw looked like it was thrown on the floor. So then that's when I pulled out the hefty, camera.
The whole team
reader.
is wasting
And
energy.
when I did that, it started beeping. So I'm like, oh. So beforehand, there was no screw. Before the maintenance man came in, there was no screw. Then when I noticed that there was a new screw, I went and purchased that on Amazon, and then I did the test, and that ended up being the camera. So if anything, that's when it was confirmation for me that the maintenance man was in on it, the property management was in on it, the tenant were in on it, all of these surrounding neighbors. I said, they're like cockroaches. How many more is gonna come out the woodworks? You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, I'm thinking to myself like, oh, I got this handled like Olivia Pope.
Okay.
I can play dumb with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? I'll just pretend I don't know, and then have them continue on doing it until they get caught in my web. There were even times where I noticed DNA.
Lost.
Okay. That's really what was essential. Their DNA that they left. Because me as a black woman, I don't wear weave. I wear braids, synthetic braids. So why is there hair, in my apartment that is of a different ethnicity? Okay. So it's just like, quiet as it's kept, now it won't be quiet. But this is certain information that I was keeping, on the low. And so just furthermore, as far as like, that will assist me to present my case when it comes to this. And you're probably going to go into it. I've seen your last interview, which really propelled me. That was really what propelled me to write in, because it's just like, you get so discouraged, especially for somebody who has been game stalked as long as I have. It's 2020, it's going on 2026, and you're like, am I going to get some type of reprieve from this? Does this get worse? Like, can anybody get out of that? And if so, what does it look like? Because I'm looking at the cases that I'm noticing and I'm seeing about everybody who has been gang stalked in the past. It's just like they not teach you, but it's more like, well, this is how you deal with it as you're going through it. Okay, that's great. But I want to know if anybody has gotten up out of it and can speak on that. And I mean, I didn't. I haven't seen that yet. you know? And I will say that I'm still very much hopeful, but seeing that initially, I'm just like, man, that got me down in the dumps. I'm not gonna lie about that, you know? And then that got me to doing a lot more research to say, okay, well, how more involved is
Friendly
this?
commander,
And the reason why I say
self-destructed.
that is because I had police
Friendly
police
destroyed.
cars watching me. I mean, parked right out front of my apartment. Anytime I left, there were police officers that would either meet me there or that would follow me. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is on some other stuff. Okay. There would be times where I would leave out of my apartment because at the time when I lived in the DMV area, I would see helicopters that were part of the FBI every single time I would leave my apartment. I'm like, oh, the FBI's involved in this now? Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, what the hell is going on? You know, so it's very involved. I've also noticed that there were times when I would vacation or go on a work trip, how all of a sudden my Wi-Fi was being messed with. I was experiencing a lot of the same symptoms as I was in my apartment as it relates to direct energy weapons. People were watching me like clockwork. Okay, I also picked up on, what do they call it? Direct conversations, I think is what they call it, where someone, you would overhear conversations that included things that you spoke about in the privacy of your own home. I've experienced that. There was case in point, there was a time where the maintenance supervisor
Units under attack.
at my old apartment building that I lived at,
Unit
he
lost.
had risen the ranks, and so he had become a property manager. And I had connected the dots on with his involvement. I said, oh, this promotion is connected to it. I'm willing to bet my money on it, you know, as far as him going from a maintenance supervisor to a property manager, and his
Friendly
dealings
commander
as far
destroyed.
as the gang stalking. Well, to the story at hand, there was an issue where I
Enemy
received like a
commander
memo
destroyed.
on a noise disturbance. It's only me, myself, and I say in the spirits when they have a message for me, okay? So I'm just like, I remember when I went to his office to have a discussion, two things that I distinctly remember. One, as I was having a conversation with him, he specifically had mentioned certain things in our conversation that no one would have known unless they were listening in on me, okay? Because there's certain things in, call it what you will, but there's certain things that I only tell specific people, and I do it purposely too, because I know if I hear any remnants, I know who it's coming from. So I noticed that when he was saying something in the conversation, he had picked up on something specifically I had said in my apartment. There's no way in hell he would have known unless he had access to, the cameras, you know, had access to the recording devices. And I would later eventually find out that everybody in my apartment building was getting paid. Everybody was getting some type of reward or payment or services that were being paid for their involvement with the gang stalking. And so with that, they would often relay messages, you know, because I'm just like, I don't share everything, but I keep everything, okay? So, and when I discovered that the property manager was sharing things that only I had said in the privacy of my own home, I said, oh, he's connected too. Okay, so at this point, I'm like digging in. I'm becoming my own detective, okay? Because I'm like digging in to try to find at this point, I knew what the root cause was, but I had no idea how this person was so well connected. well connected to the point where you have all these servicemen doing different things as it relates to gang stalking that I'm noticing. Okay.
Air transport
and then
spotted.
with the equipment, as far as with hacking, I don't know what type of equipment they're using, but I know it's high tech. I know it's like beyond like the average knowledge of a civilian. I know that. So based off of some of the things that I was experiencing, I'm like, how is this person connected? Where is this coming from? And so I did more research. So it was like it's a whole pot of gumbo. I did my own personal research, own observation, own witness, testimony, and then spiritually finding out what's going on in the unseen as far as what's happening that I need to open my eyes to so that I can physically look into more or further.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's just, it's been a lot. There was an instance where I experienced
Enemy
being
commander destroyed.
poisoned. And I say that because there was a point where I would order from Uber Eats, okay? And so that's another thing with them having access to my phone and my apps. I had discovered that they were connecting individuals to, if I did like a Uber Eats, somebody connected to GameStop was the person that was dropping my food off, okay? Or somebody was connected to the restaurant that I was in. After they saw the pattern of how many times I may have frequented, they need an inside person, So I've experienced that.
Friendly player resigned.
Where I'm pretty sure you're familiar with honey traps, where they send people, they get an idea of what your physical ideal type is, then they send all these people to gain information, intel, and then for some to do worse, okay? For some to do worse. There was a time where I had discovered that the maintenance man was, one of the maintenance men was a hacker, okay? And then the other, he was the one that was responsible for putting in, I think, at least 4 of the cameras in. And then, they go ahead and move on and tag team, okay? So then the other person, the new maintenance man that came in, there were times where I started smelling certain things within the vents. And this didn't happen until I started becoming more public on my personal experiences on TikTok. So I'm like, are they trying to take the kid out? I mean, I'll put it like this, because I'm just like, you hear a lot about, what do they call it? Touchless torture. I think that's what they call it.
Okay.
Or refer it to as far as like gang stalking. I've also heard it be referred to
under attack.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. But what I was experiencing was
Friendly commander destroyed.
The more I started to speak up about certain things, and it didn't necessarily help that I was giving out names, government names, not aliases names, government names.
Okay.
That didn't assist me. My head was like, I felt like my head was
detected.
on the chopping block. I felt like I was a Black John Wick, and I was not aware. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you're familiar with John Wick, but I'm just like, when it was like, I honestly felt like that there were so many people out for me because of the information that I was giving out, that and how it would attract more attention. I did notice that I was getting shadow banned to the point where always getting banned from social media accounts, more specifically from TikTok. And so I would have to start back up. My numbers were being played with, the algorithm was being played with to affect my reach. And what's interestingly enough, I had discovered that, the individuals who so-called reached out and wanting to collaborate to either share my story or just to share, experiences, I had discovered that part of the program
Metal
too.
extractor lost.
Okay.
You know, there was this one particular instance, my first attempt to doing a collaboration on game stalking, and then I had somebody message me on TikTok saying
Friendly
that's not her
player
real name.
resigned.
This is her name. She's in the military and she's part of the game stalking. I had
Okay.
somebody tell me that. So I was just like, who can I trust? I honestly felt like that because at this point, it was when I reached out to, I had made 2 reports